of India. To understand Pakistan and Afghanistan and the security scenario of our subcontinent, do read his books, or else the podcast that we have recorded with him in the past, which are episodes number 14, 62, 173, and 241. Thank you, Mr. Deveshwar, for coming to the show. I've seen a number of the podcasts where they are mispronouncing your name, but his name is Tilak Deveshwar, and as I said in the introduction, he's come in several episodes. So we call repeat guests as RPGs. Yes, repeat performance guest, not the rifle. So anyway, so for those of you who have not read any of Mr. Deveshwar's books, there's Pakistan, the Balochistan Conundrum. There's Pakistan at the Helm. This, of course, is the first book that you should read on Pakistan.
Yeah,
on Pakistan, it's the first book you should read. Then there's Courting the Abyss. This is also on Pakistan. And then The Pashtuns, which is the other book on Pakistan. And other than that, he's edited several books. You're seeing the picture out here. And as I said, you can watch the other podcasts. So may I call you by your first name, if
Please.
I have your permission?
Please.
Okay. So this episode, we don't want to restrict it actually just to Balochistan, but let's begin with that. And my audience also has a few questions. They have a few questions to ask you. But let me begin with the train hijack one and the Noshki convoy attack. Does this look to you as a rebel attack? Because most people, commentators, have different opinions. They say it looks too much like a military strike, the way it's happened. And then the continuous attacks which are happening since that, post that, like literally several in a day. So tell me about what was your first thought when you saw the train attack and then the Noshki attack, the convoy attack.
First of all, thank you so much for having me again on your show. And this is a very interesting format. I've never done something like this before, so hopefully it'll be interesting and the audience interest will be, kept. My first impression when I heard about the train was that it was an amazing escalation of the Baloch independence struggle. The Baloch have done complex attacks before. If you remember, in August last year, they carried out attacks in 11 districts from the north of Balochistan down to the south, which showed that they had the capability and the capacity to hit Balochistan and hard targets all over the country, all over the province. But this was of a different quality. Because, how do you stop a train? It's a moving train, 9 bogies in it. And so it required a lot of calculation, a lot of planning, a lot of timing, and a lot of firepower to be able to stop a train. They obviously had intelligence that it was carrying over 200 soldiers who were possibly going on leave or possibly going to join the operations in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So the train
Which
terminates.
is again a little bit of a bizarre thing, no? Or does it happen often?
No.
So many
because
soldiers.
In this particular case, because the attacks of the TTP in KPK have taken on such proportions that there is a talk of a major operation. Okay. This Azam-e-Istikam operation which the Pakistan Army and the government has been talking about. So it is supposed to be launched at any time. So that could be one possibility. It could also be that there's Ramzan, Eid coming up, people are going home for leave. Except that I found it a bit strange that 200 people from one station could suddenly up and leave and, go on leave. What happens to the functioning of the station and the various units, especially because Balochistan is not a peaceful place.
So it's probably not a leave thing. It was an operation.
It could be either.
It could be either.
It could be either. The thing that has been put out is they were going on leave. So let's even accept that. But they knew that so many people are going to go on leave on this particular train at this time. They had surveyed the area. They knew which was the best place to attack it. And, the tactics have become so refined that there is this Majid Brigade, which is the suicide attackers, and then the Fateh Brigade, which carries out the finishing up operations, mopping up operations, as it were. So they were on the hills, and the Majid Brigade was actually which blew it up. And so, yes, I was surprised at the level and the complexity of this operation.
So this brigades, this is what it's seeming, that it's like a military precision with which this has happened. One does the attack, the other does the mopping up, one releases the photographs, and quite gruesome. The photographs that were released, many people didn't run that because the pictures were gruesome, and the killings. 48-hour deadline, and after the deadline, no extension of the deadline, straight away killings and bodies lined up. So it seems like it's not one brigade. It's not one. There's a military precision to the whole thing.
Yes, I think the tactics have changed and they have evolved militarily. See, in the 60s, they had these rebel camps, they were called Pararis. There were camps they took to the mountains and they carried out raids, slow key, small scale operations. But since then, tactics have evolved. They've seen what's happening in the rest of the world. And I'm sure the TTP, because of their relationship with the TTP, they learned from the TTP, they learned from the Afghan, the Taliban, how they operated. And they have evolved their techniques based on their specific location, the specific terrain of Balochistan and their own capabilities.
But it's neither a Pashtun style, it's not a Hamas style, it's not any kind of style.
That
right?
is typically Baloch.
Huh.
You see, the people don't understand that Baloch are one people, like the Pashtuns, who don't need to be trained. They take from the outside the best practices, but then they evolve their own based on their experience and their terrain and their capabilities. So now, for example, earlier there was no suicide bombing in Baloch, among the Baloch. This came very late to the Baloch, whereas the Pashtuns had adopted to the suicide bombing very early. And the reason for that is very interesting. You see, when the British attacked or fought with the Afghans, how the Afghans reacted was to crown the heights. That means they went high up on the hills and sniped at the British forces that were going through, till the British copied them, and they also crowned the heights. Then, with the Soviets, they had no reaction or they had no response to the helicopter gunships, till the Americans gave them Stinger missiles. But against the drones, the US drones, they had no answer. How do you tackle the drones? So they went in for suicide bombing, where the human body itself became a bomb and they caused massive damage to the US and NATO troops. Similarly here, the Baloch realize that unless and until they adopt those tactics, they will not be able to fight against the Pakistan Army's air power and artillery. So then they adopted very gradually. And this is just about 5 or 6 years old.
But the train hijack and the Noshki, these are bombers?
Suicidal attacks, but not suicide. That is, you blow yourself up. So they've done that in the convoy, some carrying some Chinese engineers.
But this was just like it was literally replication of the Pulwama style, isn't it?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
So,
but the Noshki one, the train was pure and simple hijack,
Yeah. So the Noshki one, let me come to that one. So this is why many Pakistani Twitterers saying that dekho what happened with Pulwama, similar thing has been done, which means ki Indian agents ne karwaya hai.
You see, in the case Pakistan, if you see their history throughout since 47, they always externalize their problems. It is never their own fault. Ki galti unki hai, the Baloch are upset about something, they are doing it, but they say ki nahi, this is a reaction from India. India ne karwaya, ya Taliban, Afghanistan ne karwaya, Israel ne karwaya, China ne karwaya. Arey galti tumhari hai, look within, that you were the one who is responsible for this. So this thing that it is done by Indians, and so let's discuss this now, that Indian help to the Baloch. Why would anyone want to help the Baloch? It's a kiss of death. The Baloch don't need any training in fighting. They've got plentiful supply of weaponry now coming in from Afghanistan. Through the TTP, they're getting the best of American equipment. Why would anyone else, any country, India for example, are you going to teach them how to fight? Why? They can teach you something to fight on guerrilla warfare. They're the best. A Baloch and a Pashtun is born with a gun. And they know their mountains, they know their hills like the back of their hand. You don't even know the terrain. So nobody needs to train them how to fight. So this whole thing about Indian help, and there are a lot of overseas Baloch who are rich, who are now funding them.
Okay.
A lot of people are working in Muscat.
So the only explanation is India doesn't need to help the Baloch. Is that it?
Yeah. Why would India want to do it? I mean, there has to be two sides. You say India is helping, but why should India help them?
Well, the logic or the explanation to that is that Pakistan, if you see Pakistan as an enemy nation, a weaker Pakistan, which has a lot of insurgencies going on, which is on the verge of a breakup or losing another part of her territory, which happened in 71, now again on the verge of doing that, that is beneficial to India. That is one way of looking at it, that some people think that that's the reason. So is that a reason good enough?
No, because they're already doing it. They're doing a damn fine job. You can imagine in the last week or 10 days I was reading, there have been something like 57 attacks, both
Yeah.
Baloch and the TTP together. आप जाके क्या करोगे? 58th करवा दोगे? You don't need to. See, in any kind of a situation like this, you survey and see what is required, what is not required. जब आपकी ज़रूरत ही नहीं है, तो बेगानी शादी में अब्दुल्ला दीवाना.
Okay, so now
Why do it?
let's come to this. What is the BLA? Is it really like an army when they have brigades and all that? Is it centralized? Is there a structure to the BLA? Or are they now random groups calling themselves part of an amorphous entity called BLA?
The BLA actually is a successor to the organization that came up in the 1973-77. There was a major insurgency. That was called the Baloch People's Liberation Front. Then after Zia entered into negotiations with them, that sort of dissipated. But some of the older people continued. So it has taken root from there. Initially it was in the Murray tribal area. So was the BPLF in the Murray tribal area. But now the insurgency in Balochistan has evolved over the last 10 to 12 years. That it is no longer confined to the Sardars who are fighting for Sardari Nizam. It is now spread out among the middle class Baloch, non-tribal Baloch, who are largely, or a large part comes from the coastal areas, through Makaran and that area. That's why you'll find that the BLA earlier was fighting only in the Murray area, but in August last year you find they were fighting all over Balochistan. So they are no longer fighting for a tribal identity, they are fighting for a pan-Balochistan, which is democratic, which is non-Sardari. So it's very difficult to talk about the leadership. It's no longer a Murray leading it on the ground.
Who's leading it? That's
just it. It's amorphous, very shadowy. You don't know. It is dispersed. It is not that random groups are doing it in the name of the BLA. That is not there. Like in the ISKP, you have people who are self-motivated and doing it in the name of the ISKP or ISIS. It has some sort of a formal structure which we don't know about. At least I don't know about. But similarly, there are other Baloch groups also in different areas. In the Makran, there is some area. In the Bukti area, there is another one. And now the interesting thing is that all these groups had earlier come together in an organization called BRAS, Baloch, Raji, Ajoi, Sangh, something like that. And now they have decided that they will act in a coordinated manner. They will no longer be isolated small incidents, but they will pool the resources and act in a united and a concentrated.
That's happened before. These experiments have, like when the Buktis and Bengals, unka peace hota tha. There's the
But
Sardars.
but it's a Sardari. You see, among the Sardari system, the rivalries, tribal rivalries,
That's
are
what I'm saying.
pushed.
Yeah.
But among the middle class Baloch who are fighting for a pan Balochistan, these rivalries, I say, forget it. They're fighting for Balochistan. So those never worked earlier. They were alliances. Now these people have got together and said they're fighting in the name of the Baloch National Army. Pooling their resources, coordinated timing, kahan karna hai, kya karna hai. So it is a much higher level of organization.
So picking up the gun happens in a certain strata of society. You're saying now that it's gone beyond that strata. Now even the middle class has joined the resistance movement and armed rebellion. There's also the women who play a major role. Could you talk to me about that?
Yeah, so there are two separate things. You see, a lot of people have joined the armed movement because the one dominant threat today in Balochistan is this enforced disappearances and kill and dump. Where random people are picked up, no question of arrest warrant, they're picked up. Sometimes their tortured bodies are found. Sometimes the bodies are not even found. So now people are beginning to realize that, look, if we are going to be picked up, tortured and killed, then you might as well die fighting. So a lot of young boys, doctors, engineers, professionals are willing to pick up the gun for the sake of defense of their homeland and for the sake of what it means to be a Baloch, for the preservation.
What does it mean to be a Baloch? Is it different from what it means to be a Pakistani? There's always this identity crisis. There's a Pashtun. What does it mean to be a Pashtun? We've discussed this in an earlier episode. What does it mean to be a Pashtun? Because that is transnational. It goes into Afghanistan too. And so there's the tribal identity, there's the Pashtun identity, there's the Afghan or Pakistan identity, always in clash. So what is the Baloch identity?
So, as I discussed in my first book, and to put it very simply to cut through a long answer, Pakistan was created in 1947. The Baloch, the Pashtun, the Sindhi, the Punjabi, the Seraiki have been on this land for millennia. They have their own culture. They have their own history. They have their own language. They have their own system. For example, like you have Pashtun Wali among the Pashtuns, you have Baloch Meyar which is the honor code among the Baloch. Now, what Pakistan needed to do in 47, it's very well to say we'll create a separate state because we are all Muslims. But you have to weld these people who have never stayed together in a country. The Baloch, the Pashtuns, the Sindhis, the Seraikis, the Punjabis, you have to weld them into one nation. Since 47, the only thing that Pakistan tried was Islam and centralization. And not give them provincial autonomy, not allow them their rights over their own resources or to be able to govern themselves. So what it means to be a Baloch today is that, look, I want my language, I want my culture, I want to be able to govern over my territory. I want access to my own resources, and those resources should be used first for the upliftment, for the employment opportunities of the Baloch. Simple example. Sui gas was discovered in 1952. For almost 20 years, no part of Balochistan got access to that gas. The entire gas was shipped out to Punjab and Sindh. Industrialization of Punjab was done on the basis of Sui gas. 1982 was the first time that gas came to be supplied in Dera Bukti.
And this is when geographically it is the largest province, right?
44%.
44%.
And in 90s it went to Quetta. For 40 years after gas was discovered, the people of Balochistan were deprived. Even today, most of the districts of Balochistan don't have piped gas. Whereas the smallest Kasbah in Punjab has access to piped gas.
Because the rulers of Pakistan have been Punjabis or Sindhis.
And the people of Balochistan, you see the way this thing is structured because of population, Balochistan has about 15 seats in the National Assembly. These 15 people have no impact on how governments are formed in Islamabad. Right? The majority is formed just by Punjab itself. Will have a majority in the National Assembly if everybody is voted for that one particular party. Then you take people from Sindh and some from KPK. So Balochistan ki to आवाज ही नहीं है. This is the best example of this. We're just digressing, but for a minute. When Akhtar Bengal wanted to speak in the National Assembly, for 2 days he was not allowed to speak. Third day when he got up to speak, somebody said, "Abhi to quorum hi nahi hai." So the assembly was prorogued or, went into recess. So he came out in frustration, he resigned and said, "Look, what is the point of my being a MNA and being part of the assembly when I cannot even speak? I cannot express the voices of my constituents in the National Assembly. Nobody wants to listen. So what are you saying, democracy?" Then he said that Mehrang Baloch came to Islamabad with a serious grievance. Nobody talked to her. Nobody listened to her. So he said, now the matter is out of our hands. The decisions of Balochistan will be taken on the boys on the hill. And then again, recently, he tweeted.
Explain boys on the hill to put people
Which is the freedom fighters.
Freedom fighters.
Yeah. That they will now take the decision because you don't let us speak in the National Assembly. That one democratic path is close to us. You don't listen to people who come with their grievances to you. You don't listen to them. You throw cold water on them. You put them behind bars. And then you say, we are going to deport you back to Balochistan. You deport foreigners. You don't deport your own nationals. But that was the Punjabi attitude. हम इनको deport कर देंगे Balochistan. So people say, then what are you talking about? Who shall we talk to? So we can't talk.
You're talking about Mehrang. So let's come back to what the original question which I was talking about women. There's that concept of not knowing whether they are widows or not. Explain that half widow.
Half widow. So, it's because so many fathers, brothers, sons have been picked up and they haven't returned or their dead bodies have been found years later. So there are women who came to protest in Islamabad. They said, for the last 15 years, I don't know if I'm married or I'm a widow. Because I don't know where my husband is. And there are hundreds and thousands of such women. Daughters who have been on the streets at the age of 10. And for 10 years they've been protesting कि भी हमारी father कहाँ गए, हमारे भाई कहाँ गए. Likewise with Mehrang Baloch. When she speaks out of first-hand experience because her father went missing, then her brother went missing. There is another lady called Samideen Baloch. Similarly, from the age of 10 they've been protesting, they've been on the streets. So you can imagine the pain and the anguish. And now they say, look, sitting at home, and Balochistan is a very conservative society. It's very unusual to find women coming out and protesting like this. He said, but sitting at home is no longer an option. सारे तो हमारे आदमी आप ले गए हो. So unless or until we come out and protest, there'll be nobody left to protest in Balochistan.
But these pictures don't make it to Pakistani media. Television channels have been silenced. So these people are coming out and they have little children holding placards in which it's written, my father missing for 10 years. And then this makes it to the social media sphere. But even that has been curtailed. YouTube वगैरह सारा curtail करते हैं in Pakistan. So what I'm trying to say is that isn't it easy for Pakistan to crush these protest movements?
No, it's not. You know, because of the power of social media. Similarly with the Pashtuns and Manzoor Pashtun. Similarly with the Baloch. I mean, she is today has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. People have come to know her internationally. She's got several awards too. Because the message has got out. That what is happening in Balochistan has got out thanks to the power of social media and a few newspapers, who have published long articles on the plight of women. So, and that is one thing which I keep telling everybody, and I'll tell your young audience too. We keep talking about Balochistan, what is India doing about Balochistan. The least all of you can do is to follow Baloch Twitter handles. Amplify them, so that, like we did so much for Maldives, when Maldives said those stupid things about India out and, all those kinds of things. And Maldives had to back down because of the power of the Indian Twitterati. Why can't you do the similar thing for the Baloch? You don't have to do anything else. Sitting at home, 5 tweet dil ke nikal diye.
But kyun?
Because injustice is being done. When you know that this is the kind of brutalities that is being done, and not only that, I have a whole list of figures, and the statistics are boring, the kind of deprivation which is there in Balochistan, which is absolutely unbelievable. And this has been done not out of neglect. It's been done by a deliberate policy to keep this province underdeveloped, keep it in poverty, and enjoy the fruits.
But tell me one thing. Asif Ali Zardari is part Baloch. Yeah. Why did he do nothing for the Baloch?
Not only that. Today you have a Chief Minister of Balochistan, Sarfaraz Bukti, who's from the PPP. He's a PPP nominee. This man, in 2017, when he was Home Minister of Balochistan, said the only option we have, that the only way to tackle the Baloch problem is genocide of the Baloch. This is on record. It's reported in the newspapers. A man who says that you do genocide of the Baloch himself, he's a Bukti. He is today the Chief Minister nominee of the PPP. So, we think that PPP is a liberal party, wo bhutto ka roti kapda makan. It's a lot of nonsense. So, like you said, ask the question about Zardari. What are they doing today? That this man, and how do you think he is going to resolve any problem in Balochistan? This is what they're left with. And then you have the Interior Minister of Pakistan who says, Balochistan ka masla to ek SHO ki maar hai. That one SHO, I think he meant a Punjabi SHO, can take care of the Balochistan problem. And 2 months later, you have this train hijacking.
And 58 attacks in 3 days.
People have been asking him, SHO kahan gaya? Where is the SHO? So, that's why I say, follow Baloch channels, amplify their tweets. People go missing every day. 3-4 people are going missing every day. They tweet about it. It is available on the social media.
It's a humanitarian crisis.
It is a massive humanitarian crisis. It's a massive human rights problem. It's a problem of socio-economic deprivation.
Why is the West ignoring this for so long? It didn't suit, or there are just exhaustion because it's been going on for so long?
Yeah, but the West or any other country never does anything on moral basis. It is their national interest. In 1972 or 73, Henry Kissinger visited Pakistan for the first time. That time he was a Harvard professor. And the insurgency was going on in Balochistan. So he was asked, what do you have to say about the insurgency in Balochistan? He said, I won't know the Balochistan insurgency even if it hit me on the face. That was the lack of interest or lack of knowledge that the Americans, I mean, Henry Kissinger was supposed to be the mastermind of international relations. Didn't know a thing. Even today, the day Balochistan becomes important, for whatever reason, today it has become important for the reason which has gone against the Baloch. Because of CPEC, because of the development of Gwadar and Chinese interest, the Chinese are pressing upon the Pakistan army and on Pakistan to crack down even more on the Baloch.
Because of the CPEC.
Yeah, because of CPEC and because of their projects. So it's worked against them. Right? Similarly, under the British, because of the great game with Russia, the British went to preserve the independence of Afghanistan and they used Balochistan. So they took control of Balochistan. Had the tables been reversed, had the Russians taken control of Afghanistan before the British became aware of it, then Balochistan would have become, the British would have strengthened the independence of Balochistan. So Balochistan has suffered as a result of the global situation. Today it is suffering because of the Chinese.
So let me come to the part of the CPEC and Chinese interference or Chinese projects in that. After this train accident, train hijacking, and the Noshki attack, aren't the Chinese in a state of panic? Because how are they going to move their people? And we've seen in the past when these attacks happened, they just took their people and went back to China. Then slowly, they came back and the projects started again. How is it going to impact on the China-Pakistan economic corridor?
It'll certainly have an adverse impact. One is purely the security of, as you mentioned, Chinese personnel. But thinking ahead, and the Chinese always think ahead. Today you've hijacked a train. Tomorrow, what if Baloch actually cordoned off a power plant? Cordoned off Gwadar? Take charge of the airfield, the port. Take charge of the Gwadar airport. The Chinese will think of these various possibilities because they are long-term thinkers.
Yeah.
So they're going to be extremely worried.
They haven't put boots on the ground, right?
Not yet. But they are talking to Pakistan. They have told Pakistan, if you can't protect our assets and our installations, you allow us.
But Chinese have never put boots on the ground, right?
In Hambantota, I suspect that they have people on the ground in Sri Lanka. Because they've taken that on a long-term lease.
That's a major commitment to make for CPEC if they're going to be putting troops on the ground. And will Pakistan allow that? They didn't allow the Americans to do it also.
Yeah. So I don't think so. If it is done, it will be PLA. It will be private security agencies.
Okay. Mercenaries.
Yeah. Who will come. Maybe PLA in the garb of a private security agency without
that
uniform.
Will have America looking at it then.
Yeah. So, but I don't see Pakistan allowing that. It will be a question of their prestige and their aura, and how can we allow somebody else on our soil to come and protect them? They've got two security divisions, north and south, to protect just the Chinese, only for that, nothing else. And yet they're not able to protect
So
them.
I have more questions, but before that, I'd like to go to the audience and then we'll come back to others. Anything on Balochistan? Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, sir. Actually, I have to ask a question. जैसे अभी जो पाकिस्तान है उसने भारत को और अफ़गानिस्तान को जो अभी हाईजैक हुआ है, ट्रेन हाईजैक, उसके लिए ब्लेम किया है. आपको क्या लगता है कि इन दोनों देशों का कहीं से कोई कनेक्शन है इस हाईजैक से?
जैसे मैंने अभी कहा था, पाकिस्तान अंदर झांक के नहीं देखता कि प्रॉब्लम उसकी है ना? तो ये कहेगा कभी नहीं अफ़गानिस्तान ने करवाया है या इंडिया ने करवाया है. मसला उनका है. Afghans have clearly said, don't put your problems onto us. Similarly with India, there is no question of that. जब तक पाकिस्तान अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं एक्सेप्ट करेगा कि पूछे कि भाई हमारे लोग इतने गुस्से क्यों हैं, हमारे लोग इतना ये कार्य करने के लिए क्यों आगे आए हैं, जब तक वो सवाल को आंसर नहीं करेगा, it can keep blaming anybody. कौन सुनता है?
नहीं, but ये TTP and BLA, how did they get together?
The common enemy, Pakistan Army. You see, they are ideologically poles apart. The Baloch are looking for separating Balochistan from Pakistan. They want independence. the TTP doesn't want independence. They want to impose their brand of Sharia first on ex-FATA, then on KPK, and then rest of Pakistan. They don't want to get out of Pakistan. So ideologically, the Baloch and the Pashtuns are poles apart.
Yeah.
But tactically, they can cooperate because दुश्मन तो एक ही है ना.
So push Pakistan army to such a point that they agree to the demands of the TTP alag and demands of the Baloch alag.
Demands of the Baloch means you break up Pakistan.
Has it come to that the Baloch are not willing to accept autonomy or more schools, more roads, more power, more gas, more electricity? They don't want all that. They just want to separate. Has it come to that tipping point?
Yeah. You know, I wrote in an article of the Indian Express, it just came out yesterday, that it has gone beyond economics for the Baloch. You can give them any amount of packages, you can give them roads, you can give them schools, you can give them that. They don't want that. Ab to baat, sir, you know, pani se...
पानी सिर से ऊपर हो चुका है.
Yeah. So they are just not, that they don't trust. You see, the question of trust deficit is so much. If you allow me to digress, this has started from 1948. 1948, when the forcible accession of Kalat took place, the Khan's brother, Abdul Karim, he went out into the mountains and carried on a revolt for about 2 years. Then he was told, and that Pakistan Army swore on the Quran, that you come down, stop fighting, and we will give you safe passage. हम कुछ नहीं करेंगे. वो आए, he and all his people were arrested, they were tried and put behind bars. So that is the first broken treaty with Pakistan. 1958, 59, again, when this one unit was broken up, or one unit was installed, there was an 80-year-old man called Noroz Khan Zarakzai. He went into rebellion. He kept fighting for a year and a half. उसको भी फिर कुरान पे कस्में खिलाई कि you come down, we will let you go. Nothing will be done to you. He came down, he was arrested, he and 7 of his followers were court-martialed, sentenced to death. Because of his advanced age, he was not hanged and his minor son, but other people, 6 of them, were all hanged, including his son called Bate Khan. And a very interesting story that they were all, bodies were lying on the floor, and this Punjabi major, just to get some fun, asked this 80-year-old man, इनमें से बेटा कौन सा आपका? So this man looked at them and he said, ये सारे मेरे बेटे हैं. And then because one of the soldiers, during hanging, his moustache had come down. So he bent down and very gently pushed his moustache up and said, even in death, do not let the enemy feel that you have despaired even for a moment. You know, that is the strength of the Baloch. So that was the second time that Pakistan sort of broke their promise. Third time, when Bhutto wanted the support of the Baloch Sardars for the constitution, he allowed in the elections promised autonomy, etc., to Ataullah Mengal, who had won the elections, and he became chief minister for 10 months. After the constitution was passed, Bhutto dismissed the government and banned the NAP. That time it was the National Awami Party. That was the third time. Then, of course, the insurgency started off. Akbar Bukti. You know, so there have been a series of broken provinces which Pakistan has...
Akbar Bukti assassinated.
Yeah. So the Balochs don't trust. And if I can just read out one very interesting quotation, which Abdul Karim, that is the brother of the Khan of Kalat, wrote to his brother in 1948. Just mark the date, 1948. And he said, the Pakistan people are not only more aggressive than the British, but they are also in the habit of biting off their own friends. From whatever angle we look at the present government in Pakistan, we will see nothing but Punjabi fascism. The people have no say in it. It is the army and the arms that rule. There is no place for any other community in this government, be it the Baloch, the Sindhis, the Afghans or the Bengalis. Total Punjabi fascism rules supreme everywhere. He could see the nature of the Pakistani state way back in 1948. And that is what has come out true. And then even the forcible accession of Pakistan, even though Jinnah was the lawyer for Khan of Kalat.
Forcible accession of Balochistan.
Accession of Balochistan. So Jinnah was a lawyer of Kalat. He was a friend of Kalat. The Khan had paid him huge sums of money. And he had argued the case for Kalat's independence from the cabinet mission, 1946. He, Jinnah, as the incumbent governor, the coming to be Governor General on 4th of August 1947, had signed an agreement with the Khan of Kalat, saying that Kalat will be independent because it was an independent state when British took it over. He signed on the agreement. Subsequently, he broke the agreement and forced the accession. Interestingly, Pakistan had signed a standstill agreement with Kalat. Pakistan had also signed a standstill agreement with the Raja of Kashmir, Maharaja Kashmir. They broke both those standstill agreements. And since then, they've continued to break treaty whenever it suited the purpose. So that's the nature of the Pakistani state. And one other thing.
Sure.
When this issue was being debated in the Kalat State Assembly in December 47, Ghausbakht Rijin, who will later be called as the Baba
Bizenju.
Bizenju. His son was Hasil Bizenju. And he said in the assembly, Kalat State Assembly, we can survive without Pakistan. We can remain without Pakistan. We can prosper outside Pakistan. But the question is what Pakistan would be without us. If Pakistan wants to treat us as a sovereign people, we are ready to extend the hand of friendship and cooperation. If Pakistan does not agree to do so, flying in the face of democratic principles, such an attitude will be totally unacceptable to us. And if we are forced to accept this fate, then every Baloch son will sacrifice his life in the defense of his national freedom. Said in 1947. And today you can see that coming out true. More and more Baloch are picking up the gun in the defense of their national freedom.
Are they attacking just the Pakistan army? Are civilians also the target? Is the enemy the Pakistan military or Pakistanis?
No, not Pakistanis. Like, for example, there have been cases when they have stopped buses and taken people out because of things. Because they say these people haven't come here as labor. You see, for a Punjabi to come to Balochistan to work as a labor doesn't make sense because Punjab is that much more prosperous. So this guy has obviously come as an agent or as a spy or something else. And therefore they are targeting those people.
Shinakt karke hi marte hain.
Yeah, Shinakt karke marte. They don't touch Sindhis, for example, or Pashtuns for that matter. But Punjabis, because they've come here to work and to spy on them, they target them.
So let's go to the Sindhi and Punjabi issue later. Any other Balochistan related? Okay, more. Okay, go ahead.
सर लाइक यू सेड मेहरंग बलोच का भी काफ़ी अभी प्रोमिनेंस आया था और जब हम वॉल्कर टर्क की रिपोर्ट आती है उसमें बलूचिस्तान का कोई मेंशन नहीं है.
किसकी रिपोर्ट आती है?
वॉल्कर टर्क जो ह्यूमन राइट कमिश्नर है उनकी रिपोर्ट आती है, उनका सब कुछ का मेंशन आता है, बलूचिस्तान का उसमें कोई मेंशन ही नहीं आता है. तो इन सच सर्कमस्टांसेस क्या इंडिया बलोच प्रॉब्लम को कुछ उसमें अपना इन्वॉल्वमेंट ला सकती है ताकि वो ग्लोबल प्लेटफॉर्म पे और ज़्यादा एको हो सके?
See, India as state government of India cannot do it. You know, people will say, but, you know, what's your local stand?
Whereas Prime Minister did mention it from
He said, but he said it very carefully, very guardedly. That people have appreciated or supported him and, you know, given him best wishes. But in the Human Rights Council, there are a lot of Baloch who go and through NGOs, not the state portion of the meeting, but through NGOs, the Baloch issue is always raised 3 times a year. And they demonstrate in Germany, they demonstrate in London. So the Baloch cause is gradually getting to be known. And किसी report पे नहीं आया, आज नहीं आया, 2 साल बाद आ जाएगा. But you know, as it gains traction, as the Baloch cause internationally gains traction, and where more and more people go on social media and use it, I think it will become more and more obvious.
We have another question.
If you see the current Baloch movement, we see the young Baloch, educated Baloch, you know, we have taken over the Baloch movement. I got a chance to meet the Sardars. I've interviewed them, the Buktis, the Mengals, and the Mari itself. So, do you believe that there is a divide between the Sardars and the current the young Baloch, those who have taken up the movement?
You know, I don't think so. I mean, nobody likes to give up their power, influence, and aura. You see, the Sardars, unlike the Pashtuns, the Pashtun is a very democratic. Even the Jirga, they sit in a circle. Among the Baloch is a Sardari Nizam. That is, the Sardar decides, dominates, runs his Kabila. In fact, there was a saying that if somebody wants to prove his innocence, all he has to do is put his hand on the Sardar's head. So whatever he says was treated as true. Or somebody was asked during Ramzan, why are you not fasting? He said, I don't have to, my Sardar is fasting for me. So that is the influence that the Sardars have on the people of their tribe. So the current crop of Sardars who have taken over from Ataullah Mengal, Khair Bakshmari, and people
Mukti.
like Mukti, Akbar Mukti, taken over from them. But they are also not, in the traditional Sardari Nizam
And they've been
style.
abroad for 20 odd years,
Yeah.
I think, right? How are they still linked, connected
No,
with
there's
the...
a lot of regard and respect.
Okay.
That. But they also realize that they are not on the ground. It's the people on the ground who face death every day, are risking it. So they have no option but to accept that other people have come to the fore, the middle class, non-tribal people from the Makran coast and other people, they have come to the fore and they command greater respect and following than they did. So naam hai, naam hai, that old respect will be there. Like the Khan of Kalat, for example.
But do you believe that the current movement is totally led by the educated middle class Baloch?
Yes, to a large extent. I won't say totally. After all, these old, younger Sardar jo baithe hain abroad, they certainly do have influence. They certainly do have influence.
And also the crowds that are coming are, people of different strata one is seeing.
Yeah.
The poor are there, the people who have lost their families, they are there, jo disappear ho gaye, as they say that word, that disappear.
Like Mehrang Baloch, her brother was abducted and killed. That's why now she has been so
Her
active.
father also.
Yeah.
So when she speaks, again to digress,
No.
उसकी आवाज़ में इतना दर्द है because she is talking reality. ज़मीन से जुड़ी हुई है. Similarly, all the women who are protesting, that's why now in Balochistan you have a very strong civil society movement. वो सब ज़मीन से जुड़े हैं. They're narrating personal experiences, not theoretical. Not theoretical. As she said, the issues that the Punjabi women are doing this Aurat March and all, he said, हमारे में तो वो मसला ही नहीं है. हमारे में मसला life and death का है. She was comparing, somebody asked her about Aurat March. She said, हमारे तो मसला ही नहीं है. हमारा मसला तो is 10 times more serious.
Do you find a political solution to the Baloch problem?
See, only if the Pakistan army compromises with the Baloch, then it will be a long haul to get the Baloch back on the mainstream. If the Pakistan army does not compromise, अबे फिर crackdown करते हैं because of this Jafar Express or Nushki. It's a nail in Pakistan's coffin as far as Balochistan is concerned.
Any other question? Yeah, go ahead. I want to talk about the civil society movement also, and the history of it in Pakistan. But yeah.
Sir, my question is, who are the main leaders behind Balochistan freedom movement
Today or earlier?
Today.
today?
See, as I said earlier, they're all shadowy organizations. जो public space में आते हैं, for example, politicians like Akhtar Bengal. He was in the National Assembly. He is the leader of a political party. They contest elections. They believed in the idea of Pakistan. They believed that their problems could be resolved through the constitutional and democratic process. But Pakistan ने वो आवाज़ भी snuff out कर दी.
I guess the reason she's asking also is because, you look at Imran Khan, okay, he's leading this. You look at PPP, there are these faces to it. Whereas in Baloch...
So, insurgency में हमेशा यही होगा.
हाँ.
You see, हमारा जो mind है, logical mind है. अच्छा, इस box में PPP है, उसमें बिलावल भुट्टो है. इस box में मरियम है, वो PML है. इस box में PTI, वो इमरान खान है. यहाँ पर because of security reasons, you don't know. They are all shadowy organizations. क्योंकि अगर आप कह दें कि भाई X is the leader, वो पकड़ा जाए, then everybody else gets demoralized. Then they will target only that leader. So, if it is dispersed and it is shadowy, आपको भी नहीं पता चलता कि कौन है.
अच्छा, also Ramzan के time पे they've attacked like this, these killings, mass killings which are happening. उसमें वो नहीं था कुछ कि रमज़ान के टाइम ऐसे नहीं
You see, the
करना.
Baloch are very secular people. For them, they are Muslim, but that does not define their identity. Unlike the Pashtuns, for whom Islam defines their identity. For the Baloch, it doesn't. And he said ना कि रमज़ान के महीने में I'm not fasting, मेरा सरदार फास्ट कर रहा है. I mean, कुरान में तो कहीं नहीं लिखा ना, they said individual fasting. So for them, it's, when the British asked them, how do you want your civil cases to be looked, decided, they said Riwaj. The Pashtun said
They
Sharia.
said what?
Riwaj.
Oh.
A traditional way of saying. The Pashtun said Sharia. So that's the difference between the Baloch and Pashtuns as far as religion is concerned. So whether it is Ramzan or any other, they are looking for targets of opportunity.
So right now, there is no fight for supremacy as far as leadership supremacy of the movement. They're all doing their own objectives, and the objective is Azadi.
Yeah. Final objective is Azadi. Right now, objective is hurt the Pakistan army as much, force them to withdraw. See, now, for example...
Withdraw from where? From Balochistan.
Yeah.
So force that Pakistan army should withdraw from Balochistan. So how is that not Azadi then? When
it is Azadi.
Yeah.
They make no bones about it. They make no bones that they want a Balochistan without Pakistan. They want an independent Balochistan.
Okay, so Azadi. So obviously Pakistan is left with no option but to crush the Baloch army and the Baloch freedom movement.
There is an option of talking to them.
What?
There is an option of, you see, it is a political problem. It stems from 1948.
Which is the question that said that is there a political solution to the problem?
But only when Pakistan army changes its thinking, changes its DNA, that you cannot crush. This is a political movement. You see, Pakistan army is strong enough to militarily hurt or even crush the Baloch. But they cannot outlast a people who have decided they want freedom.
Which is again, I find a strange situation that they have not learnt from history that when a rebellion gets extremely strong, then don't attempt to crush it if you're going to lose. It is better to talk. I'm obviously referring to a parallel situation, what happened in 1971.
Yeah.
If they had allowed Mujib, and they had continued with that, but the Bengali revolt was crushed in a terrible manner, ruthlessly. Do they not see that Balochistan is today in a situation which is similar to what happened in 71?
I'm sure they see it, but they've learnt nothing. The saying is, I've overused it, that if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Toko. That's the only template that Pakistan has. Anybody rises, first instinct is to crush it militarily. It doesn't work in today's world. It just does not work. How many people will you kill?
But do some of them think that, oh look, India crushed militancy in Kashmir? They don't look at it as militancy, they look at it as freedom fighters. But उन्होंने ऐसे किया तो हम क्यों नहीं बलोच के साथ कर सकते?
But they also forget that India never gave up the democratic process. Yes, governments may have been suspended, but there was a basic democratic process. There was a Human Rights Commission. Things happened in parallel. People in parliament were allowed to debate. Journalists protested. They issued reports. So in India, it's a totally different game.
Yeah.
In Balochistan, it's not that. Journalists don't have access. And anybody who writes a story on Balochistan becomes a story himself because he goes missing. Hamid Mir was almost killed because he did a program on the Baloch. Likewise, there is this lady called Sabine Mahmood who had a bookshop called The Second Floor. And she organized a debate. And when she came down after the debate, she was shot.
So that's what they say, that either you are crushed and killed or you become a Lifafa journalist. So those are the two levels of journalism which happens. The brave ones who continue to do their podcasts and they continue to talk about the Baloch movement, how much at a risk are they today?
Very much. Very much. So they don't talk, they don't do it. The very few and who do it are doing it from outside.
Outside, okay.
They do it from outside, it's safer. And even journalists who were outside, like Karima Baloch, they tracked her down in Canada and they killed her there. There was another journalist, Sajjad, I think, in Sweden. He was also tracked and killed.
Okay, anybody has a question on?
Hello, sir. So considering the incompetency of Pakistan to deal with the Baloch terrorist group, so do you think what impact it would have on this CPEC deal?
On? CPEC.
China-Pakistan corridor, economic corridor.
Yeah.
So would China put its foot down or would it continue to make this happen?
So before you answer that, I want to get to that point because of what she said initially. The question was Baloch terrorist groups. So this is where I'm talking about this questioning in many minds that happens, that are they freedom fighters, are they militants, are they terrorists? How do you see that? Because when you see the line of bodies, I'm sure many like her would think ki ye to, they are terrorists, they are atankvadi, or whatever the term that you want to use. So how do you differentiate one man's freedom fighter, another man's terrorist? How do you differentiate? So first part of her question and then the second part.
As far as I'm concerned, they're freedom fighters because they're fighting a political cause. It's not random. It's not targeting civilians in a market. Like, for example, what Pakistan was doing in India, you go and blow up civilians in markets and things. These are freedom fighters who are fighting for a particular cause. They're targeting hard targets, risking their lives. So as far as I'm concerned, and most people will believe they're freedom fighters. There's that very famous Punjabi thing that Toda kutta Tommy, mera kutta kutta. So Toda terrorist, mera terrorist, Toda terrorist, freedom, that kind of a thing. So I'm very clear on that. Now, as far as CPEC, coming back to the second part of your question about CPEC, you see, CPEC is already plateaued out 5-6 years ago. You find since Imran Khan's time, there is no new investment coming in. The Chinese also realize that in further investment into Pakistan is like throwing good money after bad money because, they're not getting any return. Pakistan is not able to pay for the loans, the money that has been given to them, the investment that has been done, because the initial agreements were predatory. The rate of return on those power plants is something like 22% or 24%. That rate of return, which makes the electricity produced so expensive that people cannot afford to buy it. So some power plants have even almost shut down. So Chinese have stopped investing further. This particular incident and the series of blasts, जो दासू में हुआ था, डैम में engineers got killed in Karachi, and even now, they realize that the security of their personnel, is problematic. So then why should they send more people or invest further? Yes, they keep having meetings and flowery statements are said that second phase is starting and we are going to do this and we are going to do that. Reality में कुछ नहीं हो रहा. And now the Chinese, after this two incidents, Noshki and the Jafar Express, they'll be even more worried.
What will be the Pakistan Army's next move in Balochistan? Like, do they sense that this is getting out of control, and will they tell the civilian government to open talks? Will they open talks, or will there be a more severe crackdown? Is it possible to have a more severe crackdown?
See, first of all, I don't think so. The freedom fighters will even talk to the civilian government because उनके हाथ में तो कुछ है नहीं. जिसके हाथ में है, the army, you see, it is governing directly, but they hide behind the cover of the civilian government कि इनके मसला है, इनसे बात करो. What can the civilian government do? They can't do anything about enforced disappearances. It can't get them released. So freedom fighters say, क्या बात करनी है, right?
Like Akhtar Mengal said that not 1 inch of Balochistan is in control of Pakistan right now.
And
is that true?
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know exactly. But certainly even Maulana Fazlur Rahman said that.
No, yeah, okay.
Maulana Fazlur Rahman said there are 5 to 7 districts.
He's very upset कि मौलाना को मार रहे हो.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, मौलाना को तो मत मारो, औरों को मारो, मारना है तो. मौलाना को क्यों मार रहे हो?
Yeah, that is not jihad.
हाँ, that's not jihad.
Yeah.
So
दूसरों
now,
को मारना है jihad.
हाँ, कुफर को मार दो.
Yeah.
कुफर को मारो, but मौलाना कुफर नहीं है, तो फिर मौलाना को मत मारो.
Yeah. So that is the double standards and hypocrisy. But for him to say so in the National Assembly about what he said.
Sorry, Sushant Sareen. Just to say this, Sushant was defending Maulana Fazlur Rahman की बंदा ठीक है. मतलब कह देता है कभी-कभी बंदा ठीक है.
He is a very astute politician, no doubt about that. One of the smartest politicians in Pakistan. But I think
which is a misnomer anyway, but anyway,
whatever.
Go ahead.
So to the extent that they are politicians. But I think he's very upset of being totally ignored and so much is happening and he's ignored. So for many years...
So he's just jumping in on the Balochistan issue?
Yeah. You see, for many years, he was made chairman of Kashmir Committee.
हाँ.
उससे ना वो tour कर लेता था बाहर के. He would enjoy the sights of the West and other activities also. He was kept happy.
Track 2.
Last 2-3 years, though he was chairman of the Pakistan Democratic Movement, when they protested against Imran Khan, he felt good. अब उसके बाद बेचारे को he's been cut off adrift. I think army से कोई पंगा हो गया था. He didn't go and दुआ सलाम नहीं की गेट नंबर 4 पे एंड थिंग्स.
तो ये बहती गंगा में हम
हाँ,
हाथ डाल
हाँ.
देते हैं कि चलो बलूचिस्तान पे बोल पड़ते
So
हैं.
that, for a politician in Pakistan, it's important to remain in the news. Statement दे दी, कुछ controversy कर दी,
हाँ.
and then बाद में वो you'll find कि शहबाज शरीफ will go and meet Maulana की अब they'll have जब people.
I'm going to come to the Sharifs and Imran on this. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I'm Nishant. My question is, how is it likely that Balochistan movement will succeed without collaborating with Sindhu Des movement and Pashtun agitation? Or do you firmly believe that Baloch forces are stronger enough to confront the Pak forces on their own?
नहीं, I think there already is, जैसे बात की थी, TTP के साथ tactical tie-up है.
But Sindh, his question is in the Sindh separatist movement.
So there is, you see, about 20 or 30 years ago, the separatist movement in Sindh was very strong, where the GM Sayyid was alive, the Sindh national movement. But thereafter, it has been penetrated, broken up, divisions, and now the Sindhi nationalist movement is the political side of it. And the biggest problem for the Sindhis is that you have a party like the PPP. There's no denying, even today, the PPP is the most popular party in Sindh. I remember this incident where Murtaza Bhutto was contesting against Benazir. And the slogan was, na Mir ka, na Peer ka, vote Benazir ka. Na Peer, Pagara, na Mir Murtaza, vote Benazir. So because the PPP is so strong in Sindh, the Sindhi nationalists politically have very little chance. But there is now an organization called the Sindh Revolutionary Army. I read about it in the newspaper. That seems to have a tie-up with the Baloch. Probably the Baloch are even helping it. So maybe in the future years we'll hear more about this SRA.
What about Iran?
Iran won't help the Baloch at all because they have their own Baloch who are Sunni
That's what
and
I'm
they are
asking,
Shia.
yeah.
No, in fact, in 74, when this insurgency was going on, the Shah of Iran gave $200 million to Bhutto and 30 Cobra helicopters.
To crush the Baloches.
To kill the Baloch, yeah. To fight
But that is the Baloch in their side. What about the Baloch who are on the side of Iran?
That's when they are, in fact, even more oppressed than the Baloch in Pakistan. Because they are Shias. They are Sunnis. Whereas Iran is Shia.
Okay, huh.
So, and they don't want this greater Balochistan movement. At one time, the Baloch did talk about it. They are Baloch in Iran, they are Baloch in Afghanistan. And of course, in Pakistan. So there was a talk of greater Balochistan. So Iran doesn't want that. So it will not support the Baloch of Pakistan.
Okay, and they have their own problems right now.
They have their own problems.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
Digressing a bit from the topic, can Imran Khan ever come out of the jail?
So we will be talking about Imran Khan.
Imran Khan. What is Imran Khan's, to add to what Naman is asking, what is Imran Khan's stand on the Baloch issue? Does he support it? Obviously, he doesn't want Balochistan to be a separate country. What is Imran Khan's thing? If he comes out, will he talk to the Baloch? If he comes out. First answer Naman's question. Is he coming out?
I don't think so he will come out. I'll tell you why. Again, giving you a historical
How long will he be in jail?
Abhi batata hu.
Okay.
So, when Zia carried out his coup and Bhutto was in jail, so one Pakistani politician told Zia, देखो कब्र एक है, दो लाशें हैं, एक तुम्हारी है, एक भुट्टो की है, तो तुम फैसला करो तुमने जाना अंदर या तुमने भुट्टो को भेजना है. Do you understand? The meaning was that Zia could not let Bhutto out because if he knew that if Bhutto came out, he is finished. Similarly, Asim Munir, the army chief, cannot let Imran Khan come out. Kabar ek hai. If Imran Khan was to come out, he was going to finish Asim Munir. So, as far as I am concerned, I'll be very surprised if Imran Khan is released.
But why is he still in jail? Like, why didn't the army do... I'm not saying they should, but what I'm saying is, why didn't the army do to Imran what they did to Bhutto, what they've done to other civilian leaders? Ya to usko mulk se bahar bhej do, right? Like they did to the Sharifs. One can go on talking about history. Why is what they have done to Imran completely different from what they've done to earlier?
He doesn't want to go himself. He doesn't want to go abroad.
क्या फर्क पड़ता है? वो जबरदस्ती भेज दें वो?
कैसे उसको drug करके put him in a plane and
Which is not a difficult thing when it
No,
comes
he'll
to
come back.
Okay.
The second, they can't take strong arm measures against him because he is a cult figure. The reaction in Pakistan will be so severe, even in Punjab, especially in Punjab. I don't think so the Pakistan army will be able to manage it. You see, why did Zia carry out a coup? Because there was a strong PNA agitation. They crushed it everywhere else. When people protested in Lahore and the army was asked to open fire, 3 brigadiers refused to carry out the orders. The 3 brigadiers were court-martialed. Because they knew the Punjabi troops will never fire on a Punjabi crowd. That's when Zia realized that my army ka integrity and the unity of the chain of command is going to go if I don't get rid of Bhutto. So then he moved in and staged his coup. Likewise, the army cannot trust that if you get rid of Imran Khan physically, jo Punjab mein reaction aayega. Because the PMLN
and that is when he's not a Punjabi.
Yeah.
Imagine what will happen with the Pakhtuns.
Yeah. So, like Nawaz Sharif, the PMLN, is totally defunct in Punjab. If they were a strong party, they would have to resist. They could have resisted against any civil protest. Today, they were not in a position to resist.
So PMLN is not in a position to do anything in Punjab. Who's in a position to do anything then in Pakistan? I mean, if Sindh में कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता Zardari, अगर पंजाब में कुछ
नहीं
नहीं
में तो वो popularity retain करेगा, they become unpopular, but that popularity is there of the Sindhis. That loyalty is there.
Where is Bilawal right now when you're seeing Balochistan on the verge of separation? I mean, I'm presuming on the verge of separation. Where is this young leader today?
No, not only that. That is the Balochistan. See what's happening in Sindh.
In Sindh, huh?
Those canals, we can talk about
the water issue. I will not. 4 episodes I have tried not to, but I think we have to talk about the water issue. Yes, please go ahead.
So, there is this Cholistan desert and a huge area, about 1.2 million acres more. The army has seen that this is a very good area for us to grab it. So, in the name of Green Pakistan Initiative, they said we will isko hum abad karenge. For desert to bloom, you need water. So they said they will pull out 6 canals from the Indus. Now, Indus is already totally stressed out. In fact, water of the Indus does not even 6 months or 9 months of the year does not even reach the sea.
Which has got nothing to do with India.
Yeah.
I mean, even though they are lower riparian.
But as per the treaty, they're getting
their water. Go ahead.
Because so many dams and canals have already been built on the Indus.
Of their side.
Of their side. And the canals are not lined. So just 36% of the water from the canal or the river reaches the field. Rest goes as wastage, evaporation, canals are not lined or stolen. So where do you get water for the 6 canals? So there is a Cholisal canal, they said this will be the flood water of the Satluj. Now Satluj is an Indian river. It's been allotted to India. Tomorrow if we totally dam the Satluj, like we've done with Ravi now.
And as per the treaty, we can.
We can. So where do they get the water from? This is water going to be diverted from the Indus. So what Pakistan army is doing is to abad karo 1.2 million acres in Cholistan, 13 million acres in Sindh, they're going to make barren. And Bilawal Bhutto, Asif Ali Zardari, who have the government in Sindh, are doing nothing about it. So where is their...
and there's nothing other than agriculture in that area for them.
Yeah.
Bina pani ke, they will just choke out Sindh.
And for Sindh, Indus is not only water, it's their civilization, their culture, everything is dependent on the Indus. So, and if this comes to pass, there'll be water wars between Sindh and Punjab. Because without water, there is no life. Ab Sindhi kya karega? He has to pick up arms and go and fight the Punjabi. He's not talking about separation, at least yet. He is not talking about separation, like the Baloch. But he is going to say that if there is no water, I can't survive. How will my children survive? So he will then fight with Punjab.
But again, there is no leader, considering that it has been Benazir, it has been Asif, it has been Bilawal. The strongest of Pakistani civilian movement leaders. None of them have picked up the issue of this.
Yeah. True. But you see, today what is happening in Sindh?
They're sitting in Dubai?
Every day there are protests in Sindh. Every day. Small protests, Jam Shoro bhi ho rahe hain. All these places protests are taking place. Mainstream media doesn't cover them.
Why?
So for example, there are leaders. As an agency, you should be covering this. That these protests which are happening every day, and people are saying that we will not allow the canals to be built. See, Sindh stopped Kalabagh Dam from being built. Even Musharraf couldn't ram it down the throat of the Sindhis. But they found another way to get these 6 canals to in the Cholistan desert.
Okay. Any other question? जी.
सर नमस्कार, यश हूँ मैं। जो पाकिस्तान में हुआ है अभी ट्रेन का हाईजैक का होना, तो इससे आर्मी का और जो वहाँ की आवाम है, जनता है, उसका मोरल डाउन नहीं होता क्या?
बहुत डाउन हुआ है। स्पेशली आर्मी का तो इसी पाकिस्तान की आर्मी का जो रुतबा और रौब है पाकिस्तान में, वो गोलियों और बंदूकों पे वो तो है, पर उसका था कि जो उनकी मिस्टीक है, उनका जो एक तरह की ऑरा है कि जब लोग मुश्किल में होंगे तो दिस इज़ द इंस्टीट्यूशन ऑफ लास्ट रिजॉर्ट हु वुड हेल्प देम। तो इनकी जो रेपुटेशन और ऑरा था, एक तो इमरान खान ने बुरी तरह से उसको डैमेज किया। व्हेन यू कॉल द आर्मी चीफ मीर जाफिर एंड यू कंटिन्यू टू सर्वाइव एंड थ्राइव, तो लोग समझते हैं यार व्हाट काइंड ऑफ एन आर्मी इज दिस। एंड रोज़ ये इंसिडेंट्स हो रहे हैं। 214 लोग यहाँ मार दिए, अगले दिन 90 लोग को मार दिया। सो पीपल आर सेइंग अगर आर्मी अपने लोगों को प्रोटेक्ट नहीं कर सकती तो ये सिविलियंस को क्या प्रोटेक्ट करेगी। अच्छा, अभी भी थोड़ा सा जो कसर बाकी है, 10-15% कसर, वो ये है कि कोई इंसिडेंट पंजाब में नहीं हुआ। जिस दिन इस तरह के इंसिडेंट्स पंजाब में होने लगे, आर्मी का यू कैन से उनका दे माइट एज वेल पैक अप एंड गो होम। इसे बलूचिस्तान में हो, KPK में हो, सिंध में भी हो जाए, so long as पंजाब में ना हो, so long as Punjab, which is the heartland, and so far Punjab has been safe from the ethnic groups. हाँ, religious attacks हुए हैं, there have been religious attacks, but in terms of ethnic groups, so far Punjab has been saved.
Do you see the Pakistan army using things like gunships, using drones against the Baloch now?
They have. They use F-16s. They use artillery.
In the past. But now, I'm talking about now.
So I think they are waiting
To
for a
use
big
those-
operation after Eid. अभी तो रमज़ान चल रहा है, Eid. So after Eid, I think there will be a massive operation in Balochistan.
The earlier operation, there was a wink, wink, nod, nod from America. This time, with the Trump administration.
I don't know whether there was U.S. acquiescence to it. I don't know whether they will. The U.S. will even be concerned. They're so concerned with other issues, whether it's Ukraine, Russia, Middle East, and all that. So this will.
Or will Pakistan preemptively think that यहाँ पे human rights वगैरह शोर ना मचाएं तो एक और बंदा दे दो अमेरिका को?
They'll do that. They will certainly do that. This is what Musharraf के ज़माने में they did that. And it is interesting that the Sharifullah which they handed over to the... He is not the sole person who was arrested. Apparently, I was watching on Pakistani television. There are 48 ISKP people whom Pakistan has arrested.
तो 2 साल में करते रहेंगे ना फिर?
हाँ, हर 1-2 महीने में एक... Like Musharraf, whenever he went to the US, before going, one Al-Qaeda fellow would be handed over to the Americans. So ऐसे ये एक और हड्डी फेंक देंगे. And they know how to deal with the Americans the best in the world.
The Pakistanis.
The Pakistanis. They know exactly which buttons to press and how to do it. So this is exactly what will happen.
No, but that was a deep state which is being dismantled by the Trump administration now with Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel and the others looking to disband that deep state, and they are talking about non-interventionist policies. Regime change nahi karna, ye nahi karna. That's how they've come to power, with this clear intention that we are not fighting these forever wars. We are not going to get into that. So do you see that happening, or does Pakistan realize that this is a different administration?
See, Pakistan has one template of dealing with the US. But the US will not get involved. US will not get involved. I think what we have to really wait and see, which will be a game changer, is what does the US do for Iran? If they actually go after Iran, then Balochistan and the value of Pakistan increases exponentially. Because, Pakistan has a huge land border and a sympathetic Baloch population on the other side. So, depending on if the US does something, now see, they say US said
That was
non-interventionist, but they went and bombed the Houthis the other day.
But that is for their own ship.
Whatever.
for their ships to pass. That's why they are doing, right?
So, in the case of Iran, so who's supporting the Houthis? Who's behind Hamas? Who's behind the Hezbollah? So, if they go, I'm just saying hypothetically, the thinking out aloud,
But that's-
then the importance of Balochistan and Pakistan changes. Then the US will have to take a call. Do they want Balochistan or do they want whole of Pakistan?
That was a time and era when you needed those landing strips, when you needed to move your troops, so you needed their land to put in your. You're talking about that Operation Desert Storm and those kind of wars. Today, when there are drone wars being fought, today when the aircraft doesn't need refueling in Pakistan to attack in Iran, you don't need all those. The ships will come, they will launch
Still
from
you
there.
require air bases.
The war,
You still require air bases.
They've got Turkey.
You will require.
they've got Central Asian countries.
Whether they will allow. You know, I'm just projecting like war gaming it, that is this one circumstance. See, one is the ISKP, because it's growing in strength. If Pakistan could somehow or the other show that they can do something as far as the ISKP and keep handing over arrested people to attract the US. But as far as the crackdown in Balochistan is concerned, I don't think the US will make a noise. Human Rights Council, European Commission, they will all sort of say a few things, but not that it's going to be. They will say, "Dekho, they've killed so many civilians. They've killed these unarmed passengers."
Yeah, okay. Go ahead. Yeah. And then I'll come to you.
सर वी ऑफन हेयर अ टर्म, अगर बलोच मीडिया हम फॉलो करें, ट्विटर फॉलो करें, तो एक डेथ स्क्वाड. सो इफ ड्राइंग पैरेलल, मतलब दे आर एक्यूज्ड ऑफ एक्स्ट्रा जुडिशियल किलिंग, इन्फोर्स्ड डिफरेंसेस. तो इफ ड्राइंग पैरेलल, बांग्लादेश में रैब पे भी सेम एक्यूजेशन लगे थे, एंड वी सी कि उन पे सैंक्शंस लगते हैं बाई वेस्टर्न गवर्नमेंट्स एंड यूएस. बट पाकिस्तान में ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. पाकिस्तान आर्मी या जो डेथ स्क्वाड के मेंबर्स हैं, उन पे ऐसा कुछ एक्शन नहीं होता है. सो इट्स लाइक यू सेड कि वो पाकिस्तान का टेम्पलेट है, पुशिंग बटन, ताकि उन पे कोई एक्शन ना हो.
But they are totally different. जो रैपिड एक्शन बटालियन है बांग्लादेश में, they are uniformed people. And they're part of the Bangladesh army. The death squads are mercenaries. जैसे ये शफीक मंगल है, ये उसके कबीले के उस सब ट्राइब के लोग उसके हैं मेंबर. They are not recognized. पाकिस्तान में से कहाँ हैं? Who are they? We don't know them. So they are not an organized uniformed service. They have been set up by the Pakistan army to be used to carry out these kind of activities, but not as a uniformed this thing. जैसे लश्कर जंग भी है, वो भी तो पाकिस्तान की बनी हुई है, but they are not like a rapid action battalion. तो बहुत फर्क है.
Another question?
So Pakistan has now become the second most terrorism affected country in the world. So what factors have contributed to this rise in terrorist incidents? What do you think?
The chickens are coming home to roost. 20 साल अपने इंडिया या अफगानिस्तान में लोगों को भेजा है. अब वो लोग कहते हैं कि तुमने अफगानिस्तान में हमने जिहाद किया, पहले पाकिस्तान में तो जिहाद करके देखें ना. That's what they are actually saying. You see, it's a very interesting dynamic. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, they say, when there was criticism that why are you fighting against Pakistan, so they say that we were taught in the same madrasas as the Taliban by Pakistani scholars. Us time aapne kaha ki jihad against the US is good, so we went into jihad in Afghanistan. अब हम कहते हैं जिहाद पहले पाकिस्तान में करो, बिकॉज पाकिस्तान भी तो नापाक फोर्स है, ये नापाक कंट्री है, तो अब हमें क्यों आप रोक रहे हो. तो पहले उनके पास जवाब नहीं था. पाकिस्तान स्कॉलर्स डिडंट हैव. देन द पाकिस्तान स्कॉलर्स केम अप विद दिस आइडियोलॉजी कि नहीं, सिर्फ स्टेट जिहाद कर सकता है. ठीक है, उनका बिल्कुल अच्छा है, हम भी स्टेट हैं. सो दे हैव डिक्लेयर्ड देमसेल्व्स एज अ स्टेट. दे हैव गॉट 11-12 प्रोविंसेस इन पाकिस्तान, विलायाज, 7 in KPK, 1 in Gilgit Baltistan, 2 in Punjab, 2 in Balochistan. They've got a central commission. They've got different ministries. They said, we are a state. We are doing jihad. Now you tell us where we are going wrong. They have no answer. They have no answer ideologically. So, this is the way that Pakistan, the chickens have come home to roost, that the TTP and the Taliban, who were the creation of Pakistan, or if not the creation, certainly sustained by Pakistan, are now coming home saying कि भाई यहाँ तो पहले पाकिस्तान में करो ना, शरिया यहाँ नाफिज करो.
Sir, one more question. Many reports links the surge in terrorism to the growing influence of the TTP, especially after the Taliban's return to power in Afghanistan. So what do you think? How has the Taliban's rule enabled TTP's expansion in Pakistan?
You see, you must realize 2001 में जब the US attacked and the Taliban were removed from power, they took shelter in the tribal areas. है ना? And these tribesmen today are organized as the TTP. So as per Pashtun Wali, जब तालिबान को शेल्टर दिया था उन ट्राइबल्स ने, अब वो ट्राइबल्स को शेल्टर की ज़रूरत है अफगानिस्तान में. So the Taliban will always give them shelter. And they say, because अगर if they don't, if the Taliban, पाकिस्तान कहता है ना तालिबान को आप you hand over TTP to us, they can't. अगर वो करेंगे, they will be called बगैरत, which is without honor. तो सबसे बड़ी गाली आप पश्तून को दे सकते हो is to call somebody बगैरत. And there is no way that the Taliban will hand over the TTP. उनको सेटल कर लेंगे, दूसरे बॉर्डर में ले जाएंगे, उनको बोलेंगे आप नेगोशिएट कर लो पाकिस्तान में. But they will not hand them over to Pakistan. So when the Taliban came into power in August 2021, first thing they did was release everybody from jail. तो जितने भी TTP के लोग थे और लीडर्स थे, जैसे फ़कीर मोहम्मद एंड couple of other people, they all came back and joined the TTP. TTP को अब शेल्टर मिल गया. पहले तो US के ड्रोन अटैक्स होते थे अफगानिस्तान से. And lot of the leadership, top leadership, Baitullah Masood and couple of other leaders were killed by the American drones. Now the danger of drones is no longer there. Plus the weapons that the US have left behind, the Taliban have handed over to the TTP as part of their war booty. क्या कहते हैं माल गनीमत जो उसको कहते हैं. That has come to the share of the TTP. तो उससे भी उनका बहुत benefit हो गया because of the highly sophisticated weaponry they have got. So in many ways they've got secure shelter, they have got weapons, so that's how the TTP has benefited.
सोशल मीडिया पे ना एक कोट बार बार आता है all the time, which the Pakistanis also put up to prove a point about India, and the Indians, especially the pro BJP handles, they do a lot of chest thumping on that. And that was an old video of the current National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, in which he talks about the Pakistan strategy, and he said, do one Mumbai and lose Balochistan. So the Pakistani handles who are saying that कि देखा इसीलिए तो हम कहते हैं कि this was his strategy, and now that he's NSA, he's doing this. The Indian handles say कि तुमको पहले ही warn किया था कि ये होगा, और ये हो गया. देखो हमको कुछ करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, पर हो गया. एंड देन देयर इज दैट नामालूम अफराद, अननोन गनमैन, उसको लेके भी देयर इज सोशल मीडिया में बहुत सारे कि इनको तो रिपब्लिक डे परेड पे इनका एक बटालियन होना चाहिए वहाँ पे ऑफ नामालूम अफराद.
See, again, the problem with Pakistan is that they have no imagination. You must think a thing through.
I think they have a very, very lurid imagination.
No. The problem of Balochistan did not start after Mr. Doval made his statement. It was in 1948 se. The first insurgency against the government was in 1948, then 1958, then 1962, 1973, 77, और ये वाली तो 2004 से चल रही है. Mr. Doval was not even in service in the 1970s. I'm not sure whether he was. He was certainly not the NSA in 2004.
But there's a lot of stories about that, how he went in an auto rickshaw and things like that, and he crossed the border.
डर अच्छा है. If the Pakis are scared, डर अच्छा है. So now what unknown gunmen, I've been asked this question and I'll say the same reply.
आप गए? Have you crossed? अच्छा, no, maybe I shouldn't ask this. What your reaction?
कुछ सवाल रहने दो, कुछ जवाब रहने दो.
Okay.
So, Pakistan has a consistent history of political assassinations. Starting from Liaquat Ali, Khan Saab, Benazir Bhutto. There have been a series of poets, other politicians, terrorists. The person who set up Sipai Sahaba, Azam Tariq, he was killed. Nobody knows who killed him. Persons who set up Lashkar-e-Jhang, Muhammad Ishaq, Riaz Basra, they were killed. कोई पता नहीं. So ISI has this tradition or practice that use and throw. जब एक person का आपने पूरा निचोड़ निकाल लिया, he's no longer of use to you, or he is about to turn tables or switch sides or reveal, you bump him off.
So what you're saying is that the ISI is killing their own
Yes.
in Pakistan
Yes.
and getting it said कि India कर रहा है.
Yeah.
Also, is it possible that Mr. Doval has infiltrated ISI and getting it people killed?
No, I don't believe that.
Okay.
But you see, what they didn't realize, or they don't realize, that for India, it is not a matter to be defensive about. On the other hand, Indians are damn thrilled. देखो यार, हम करवा रहे हैं. You know, it would have made a difference when you blame India that India will get on the defensive. नहीं, हमने नहीं करवाया. यहाँ तो ठोक के लोग बोल रहे हैं, हाँ हमने कराया, देख लो, what all we can do. You see, so that is backfired. They have killed their people. Maybe they were not of use to them anymore. But what psychologically advantage they could have gained by telling the world, India is a terrorist state. देखो, India ये करवा रहा है. India saying, हाँ. As you mentioned, those handles and everybody, all the YouTube vloggers, 28 हो गए, अब 29 हो गए, नहीं 32 हो गए हैं. People are thrilled that, you know, we have got this. You see, you have been at the receiving end for terrorism for the last 30 years. And if you find that you are being complimented for hitting back, you lap it up. So Pakis didn't realize this.
What a good point you're bringing in. This is just what, there are many of us who have friends and relatives who live abroad who don't understand this part. That India has been a victim of terrorism for so long that when you're seeing terrorists blow themselves up and India being told कि you are the muscular guys who are blowing them up, चाहे हमने किया या ना किया हो, you're feeling a sense of pride.
Yeah.
Right?
That
अंदर से पता भी है कि हमने कुछ नहीं किया. Right. Don't take advantage. Okay, go ahead.
My name is Raj. So recently,
That sounds like my name is Raj sounds like straight out of a Karan Johar film, or nowadays sounds like straight out of a film में जहाँ पे रॉ एजेंट कहता है I am Raj. Go ahead.
Sir, my question is recently Balochistan province में मुफ्ती शाह मीर का assassination हुआ by a unknown gunman. So how do you take this? Should we connect this with assassination in reference to the Balochistan killing them, or is there is connection with the India?
No, what you are trying to say is that मुझे मालूम नहीं है, but लोग कहते हैं कि he was the man who arranged the kidnapping of Kulbhushan Yadav from Iran and showed it as arrested in Balochistan. यही आप कहना चाहते हैं ना? Directly पूछो. This
Kana that Raj is probably an agent out here.
So, this poor officer was picked up, kidnapped. He was legitimate business. He was picked up from Iran, उसको दिखाया गया. Again, failure of imagination. अगर इंडिया ने भेजना भी था किसी को बलोचों के लिए, वो नेवल ऑफिसर को क्यों भेजते? अगर भेजना था तो आर्मी इन्वेंट्री ऑफिसर ना भेजते?
क्या ये आप क्या बोल रहे हो मेरे शो में? फिर अब नेवी मेरे पीछे पड़ जाएगी.
No.
कि नेवी को पुअरली दिखा रहे हैं.
नहीं, पुअरली का naturally he is on the ship. He can teach you how to ride on a ship. वो आपको इन्फेंट्री टैक्स क्या, और दूसरा बलोचों को कौन सिखा सकता है फाइट करना? The Indian Army is by and large a conventional army. It has fighting in the mountains. It has developed a lot of skills. So if anybody had to be sent to support, it would be an army officer, an infantry officer. Why a naval officer? And then will he go infiltrate into an enemy territory carrying his real passport? So क्या, this is totally failure of imagination. They wanted to establish equivalence.
So
कि देखा हमने इसको पकड़ लिया. अरे भाई सोचो तो सही, बंदा है कौन?
So you think that he had nothing to do with?
No, of course not. Absolutely not. But this person जो कहते हैं कि unknown gunman में, अब again they said कि India is behind it. अब देखो एक आदमी तुर्बत, छोटी सी जगह है in बलूचिस्तान, वहाँ पर है. How would anyone in India know this man, know that he is in Turbat, know that he is in this masjid, he is going to come out at this time, and then you position somebody there to kill him? It strains the imagination.
They would have used locals? Contract killing?
If somebody had to be used, but how do you even know the person is there? Yeah, how do you know the person is there?
And if India
you don't even know who is the person who picked him up?
और करना ही था तो हाफिज सईद को अब तक कर देते या दाऊद इब्राहिम को कर देते. Why these guys?
Why this the low levels too?
Yeah. So
तो ये जो unknown gunmen है या किसी और जिस तरह के थिंग is all total Pakistan trying to blame India, not realizing that Indians are saying damn good. Lap it up, bring it up more, और करो आप.
Okay, one more question I think then we'll wrap up. Yeah, go ahead.
Is Kulbhushan Yadav alive? What do you think?
मुझे कोई information तो है नहीं, but I think he would be alive because the International Court of Justice has given a stay. So जब तक वो case resolve नहीं होता, I don't think so Pakistan can just hang him. Wish they had given him a death penalty.
So जैसे हम सब जानते हैं कि पाकिस्तान की स्थिति क्या है, आर्थिक स्थिति, और आए दिन नए नए लॉस होते जा रहे हैं उससे. जैसे अभी चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी होल्ड किया, उसमें भी काफ़ी लॉस हो गया उसका. तो मतलब फिर भी बलूच जैसे BLA ये फाइट कर रही है अपनी, तो पाकिस्तान आर्मी या पाकिस्तानी रिजीम हार क्यों नहीं मानते? क्या ये मतलब कोई ईगो वाला क्लैश है या फिर इसको सिंपली हम पाकिस्तान की बेवकूफ़ी कहें?
अरे मेजॉरिटी पंजाबी है, पंजाबी का भी हार मानता है. Even when he's going to lose, no army can. You see, और ये जो battles है ना, these are incremental battles. These are guerrilla battles. ये तो है नहीं कि इन्फेंट्री आप एक मैदान पे पानीपत की जंग हो रही है, एक तरफ बलोच है, दूसरी तरफ आर्मी है. ऐसी तो जंग नहीं है ना. It is an incremental guerrilla tactics. The Baloch will, what do you call, make the Pakistan army fatigued. इतना attrition होगा. People from the army itself will start deserting. कल के मैं देख रहा था, एक पठान भाई करके उनका YouTube चैनल है. He actually showed the video of a Frontier Corps soldier who was so disgusted that he had to kill people. उसे 12 लोग मारे थे. So he quit from the army. Resigned from the Frontier Corps, and he gave a YouTube video, confessions. And the next day he was killed. Within 10 or 12 hours of his video, कि हमको ये कराते हैं, मैंने खुद 12 लोगों को मारा हुआ है.
अपने लोगों को मारा हुआ है.
अपने लोगों को. इतना जुल्म और इतना तशद्दुद हम करवाते हैं, आर्मी हमें कहती है करने के लिए. तो आई वॉज डिस्गस्टेड, तो मैंने रिजाइन दे दिया. 12 hours later he was dead. So, it's a matter of war of attrition. So, it is going to be a long drawn out thing, and they will peg away. But it is such a battle that the Baloch, क्योंकि वो अपनी ज़मीन पे बैठे हुए, they are fighting for their rights, they are fighting for their homeland.
But the
Baloch हारेंगे नहीं.
The majority of the Pakistan army is Punjabi.
Yeah, about 60 to 70%.
So, उनको फर्क पड़ेगा to take arms against their own people, their own बोले तो.
But right now they're not fighting against Punjabis. You see, अभी जो पंजाबी आर्मी है, they are fighting against.
Correct. That's what I'm trying to say is their own मतलब Pakistani, not Punjabi. But they are fighting against the Baloch. They're fighting against the Pakhtuns. They'll fight against the Sindhis. They're fighting against all these people, right? The Punjabis are not picking up arms.
No.
So, what is the problem then? They'll keep killing them.
But the problem, if it comes to Punjab, supposing the Baloch or the TTP carries out a major action in Lahore, that's the next step. आप देखेंगे, the Baloch or the TTP, because they also know that unless and until we hurt Pakistan in Punjab, they are not impacted.
So the writ of the Pakistan army is restricted to Punjab right now?
Not right now. Right now it's or pan-Pakistan. There's no doubt about that.
But it's going to happen, you're saying?
If
the way things are.
Yeah, if the way things are going. Because अगर आप TTP का देखें, उनकी जो raids हो रहे हैं ना, they are now coming into mainland KPK. For example, Bannu hai, there are Ismail Khan hai. They have also carried out attacks in Islamabad. So, deeper they are. So once they get more and more organized, they get more strength, they get more recruitment, you will find that they will be coming more and more.
More and more. Okay, I think with that, we'll wrap up for today. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast. And we look forward to getting more information from you on our future podcasts. Thank you so much. On water. On the water issue.
Thank you so much, Smita. And I really enjoyed this format.
New format.
For people, people asking questions, interactive kind of a thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for watching or listening to this edition of the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. Do like or subscribe on whichever channel you have seen this or heard this. Namaste. Jai Hind. click here to watch the previous episodes.